was trying to do some work myself to kind of understand, where we're going and the pieces that we need. And so I this is very rudimentary, but I'm trying to map out the pieces that we need for, the ability to, sorry, one second. Someone's pinging me. I'm so sorry. Here we go. Yeah, so figure out how to make all these pieces play nicely just to get to develop and validate and deploy the programmable devices against different, hardware and software platforms. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see my, yeah, okay.
Yes,
Yes,
And so
we can see
I
it.
was kind of trying to map it out here because, it seems like we have BMV2, we have P4, we need to be compliant with PNA, and then we have P4 DPDK, and then we've got, the dash P4 reference code that we're trying to do. And then what I was trying to do is annotate the gaps, between, for example, BMV2 and PNA, and then the gaps between BMV2 and P4, and then the gaps between P4 and PNA. And and then of course we have P4 DPDK down here that I haven't quite gotten to yet. And so I was wondering if maybe we could brainstorm or talk about that a bit, or if we even have a possibility of getting to where we want to go. Because, I think, back then we had decided, okay, we want to use BMV2. Okay. But, there's some gaps with doing that. And so Shweta and Sosutha are looking at P4 DPDK, and the NVIDIA team had really championed using P4, and so I was wondering if we could all talk together to kind of help figure it out.
I guess it's a question of, we have defined what our true, final end goal would be. So everybody is happy in the way we want to use any of these, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also it's a function of, people being comfortable catching up to what's there in BMV2 or the gaps like you've identified across all of these, right? So what's the scope of the work that would get us to a point wherein we can all work on a common environment, I guess.
Yeah, and I've
And the
been trying,
resources that go along with it, right?
right,
Every group is comfortable with their environment.
right, and I've been, attending the P4 group on Mondays at 8 in the morning. I think they've gone to a monthly cadence here. And I have gone into the GitHub repos for BMV2 and for, they don't have one for PNA, but and for P4. And I did notice, for example, in the behavioral model group, they did have a PR that said they added PNA compliance into BMV2. Had you guys seen that PR at all?
No, I have not seen it.
Okay, let
Yeah,
me.
but one thing, just to elaborate more on this thing, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's great to put all these pieces there and see how the connections are,
Yeah.
and this really helps quite a bit to the community, and especially when we started out. Well, one thing is definitely the case that okay, P4 is a language, right? We all understand that part, and
Yeah.
then there are these two architectures that are essentially are defined. One is called PSA, and one is called PNA, right? So portable switch architecture and portable
Yeah.
NIC architecture, right? So those are essentially are the architectures, the reference architectures. So and using those architectures, we have these we had this BMV2, which is essentially is a way to simulate, right, a switch on which you can actually run your P4 code, right?
Yeah.
So but what really happens is that BMV2 was compliant with PSA only to start with, right? And we, as doing the smart NIC, we wanted something that essentially complies PNA. PNA may have some of those, maybe the superset of, or at least, something it inherits from PSA, but then it adds more from, from the NIC architecture itself also. So we could not find, as you know, some of this support on the BMV2. So we don't know whether now BMV2 is in compliance with both PSA and PNA.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, in earlier discussions, we were all veering towards P4 DPDK, which is essentially, an alternative to BMV2, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we said, okay, we could use P4 DPDK, which is similar to BMV2 in order for us to really do any simulation, and it also is going to be compliant with the PNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that also had some, I guess, gaps or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those pieces, as we know where they fit, they are there. And then we had our reference code from the point of view of the dash, right? Which we could say that, okay, this is the reference code, and then we use that reference code. Say that, okay, people can use this one as, in order to really build their chips, for example, whether it's fixed chip or programmable chip, this is what, it should comply with, because this actually takes care of all the requirements from the dash perspective, right? So I thought that, that, I don't know if that makes sense to everyone, but, this is my understanding how things.
Yes, Hanif, but the question is, I think most development so far on Dash at least has been geared around BMV2 from what I know, right? I don't know how many people have, right? So that's the gaps I was alluding to, saying, what is that? If we have to cut over from one to the other, how would we be able to do that? And what would those gaps need to be, need some further analysis? Right. I mean, BMV2 largely maintained by Marian and others.
Right. I think one thing that I always tell to people is that, although it is very fulfilling to use P4, and, it's a great tool to have in order to really, have this define your pipeline in programmatically and be able to really test it and so forth. But when you are working with P4 and you're trying to define your, solution for any problem that you're trying to solve, you will need to invest a lot more on the tools, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then the tools, when I say this thing, when I mean P4 compilers, the front-end compiler, back-end compiler, your simulator, and so forth, right? And, today's definition of P4 or today's definition of simulator may not satisfy all what you want to achieve, right? And this is the case with Dash, like it's the case with any other project and that the industry is going. So if you look at any of the companies who have really tackled P4, they have invested in the tools, okay? They have a good sized team really maintaining the compiler, enhancing the simulator, and so forth, right? So I think in our Dash project, this is what I thought we lacked, and we initially, I mean, it was okay. We were really focused on solving a problem. We came up with things, and then over a period of time, we saw some gaps in the PNA, and then with the help from Andy and others, we were able to basically make modification or even in fact enhancements to the P4 itself or the PNA architecture itself. We know that part, right? So as such, we need to also have that kind of a thing be trickle into the tools as well, right? And then this is where I believe we struggled to find resources to say, can we basically invest in tools which compilers and then also the simulator. So my 2 cents, that's what I observed, right? So
yeah, I agree, and I am trying to map the gaps to each of these sections. And if you have suggestions on, like, I am happy to attend the BMV2 open source or the P4 open source calls to try and figure out with other companies or leaders how to integrate Sorry, I was looking for a riff here. I didn't see riff, but and it seemed like maybe that that app layer, that data plane app layer that riff was developing might be helpful. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that.
Yeah, so, Krishna, as you know, I've been absent for some time, so I need to catch up on that thing.
Yeah.
But I'll take a look at it, what it is.
Okay. All right. So do you guys think it looks like I'm on the right track here to track down you know, the differences and where the work items in each of these areas to make the tweaks?
I mean, it's good to get a view of the way you've laid out the things, Christina. But
Yeah,
the motivator is, you know, today any commit into Dash and has API changes, all of that is validated against changes in BMV2, correct? So if you have to propose anything alternative like P4 DPDK, then you know somebody has to take that work up front and try it
whether
out.
whether PNA can address what Dash needs, right? And if you guys have a pointer where I could go talk to someone who is there a lead PNA or I'm familiar with P4, Mario and Andy and those guys, but the PNA community I'm not super familiar with. Are any of you guys? If not, I can research it myself. And even if we added PNA compliance to BMV2, is that enough? Is that what we need?
Yeah, I think the right place to start is probably Andy and then maybe Chris Sommers. So these two individuals are pretty active in P4 community.
Yeah.
And you know, they also attend the Dash meetings as well. So I think, you know, if we can start with these two individuals, they can really definitely guide us. And they might very well be even the point of contact. The only thing is that, you know, it's just that we can identify that, you know, introducing things into the PNA as an architecture may not be as a difficult task, right? We can talk about it, and then, you know, that what they really mean is, okay, these are the things that you can add, you know, or you can basically, if you have to enhance the P4 language itself in order to have some, you know, some things added to it, that can be done. I think the point comes in that where you need to essentially make enhancements to the code itself, like P4 compiler, right? Or basically, you know, make enhancements to the P4 DPDK or to the BMV2. So these are this is where rubber meets the road kind of thing, right? So and this is where I guess somebody needs to come in and commit resources to say, can we make you know, enhancements to or changes to the code and also, you know, test it out and really upstream it and so forth. So this is where so I think you are starting from, you know, it's a great start, putting things in the paper, seeing how they are all related to each other, and then, you know, where the dependencies are and where the gaps are, right? So this is a great start.
Yeah, and I just drew this morning at 8 o'clock, so it's not anywhere near anything, you know, complete or important. I just decided to start doing some research myself. So, okay, that's good. That's good. I work with Andy a lot anyway, and I can work with Chris. And I can talk to Riff about whether his shim app will help with any of this. So, okay. Well, I thank you for your time. Is there anything you guys wanted to talk about specifically? So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of rely on your guys' expertise there. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then I guess Shweta will talk to Sosutha next week, and she can, you know, give us some scoop on P4 DPDK.
Sounds good.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, thanks you guys for coming. Wei, since NVIDIA had kind of championed BMV2, did you have anything to add?
Nothing from my side. We probably need to discuss this internally. I think I'll try, right?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Could you?
Yeah, Marian had a conflict today, so he couldn't join, but I pinged him and we probably need to also discuss it, get Marian involved at least to get his insights since he was leading the behavior model, the BMV2.
Yeah, that would be great. Paul, could you sync up with Marian, you, Shai, and Wei?
Yeah, no problem there.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll keep working on this drawing over the next few days and work with Chris and Andy. So that's a good start, I think. And I do thank you guys for coming, and I will keep working on this. Okay?
Thanks, Christina.
Okay, I'll give you time back. Thank you all for coming.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye-bye.